All right. Welcome back to the CJ and Hiller podcast presented by True Health Company. Happy to get on here and spend some time talking about the things we enjoy, a little bit more informed about healthcare, self-care, and being the best versions of ourselves. Okay, that's what we're all about here. So our goal with this podcast is three things. One, spend quality time having meaningful conversations. Two, share our stories of living a lifestyle that prioritizes health while chasing goals in everyday life. And three, share our unique perspective of having careers across spectrums of healthcare and how that impacts the way we view health and life overall. If you like our conversation, let us know, learn from them, share our episodes, like the videos, and subscribe to the channel. All right, so that last one, share our unique perspective of having careers across spectrums of healthcare, is a unique one. We haven't really dove into that much, so we'll have to keep that in mind for future episodes. I think we've just been kind of breaking down what recovery looks like, what exercise looks like, what nutrition looks like, and really just giving people the facts about health and nutrition and fitness and all of those things. So I think kind of bringing our professions into it in 2024 would be a cool episode. But today, Hiller's going to kick off the episode with our 2023 review and our 2024 prep. So, Hiller, lay it out for what everybody's going to listen to today.
All right, so True Health Company, as well as myself and Dakota last year, started off the year with each challenge a month, with each challenge specific to narrow our focus and focus on that one particular goal for that month, hoping by the end of the year you have created 12 new habits, and that's kind of the big thing here. A lot of us, when the slogan comes out, "New Year, New Me," we try to think of everything and anything that we would want to accomplish, and then we want to do it all at once. And this is a way to spread it out throughout a year and make it a very slow, methodical process, but make it effective and accomplish things one at a time, which can be difficult in itself to accomplish one thing at a time, but also to go that slow and literally it's not glamorous. It's super simple. And one of the things that we did last year that we're going to incorporate, one of the things we incorporated this year that we're going to incorporate next year is two of the big ones for us is no spend January and no social media February. So we'll incorporate those again. But before I go through the list, we talk about things that we accomplished this year, and one of those was a half marathon, and you were present for that.
For sure.
You have goals within goals, and we feel it didn't go as well as we wanted to, but the goal was to run one, so we did accomplish that. What we learned is that we could have maybe trained a little bit differently, maybe tapered more towards the end, and you felt accomplished probably more so the next day. Kind of felt defeated in the regard of after the race just because of the emotions after the race, but still finished it.
For sure. I'll ask a question and kind of follow up, and that will kind of set up for our 2024 goals. But like, we'll use the half marathon as an example, but like the half marathon is the thing that you were trying to accomplish, right? Like that was the goal. Now, like looking back on it, and you're talking about reflecting on like training differently or tapering a little bit more, like now that you're a few months out from that, like how much of it is the accomplishment of the half marathon, which was the initial intention and the initial goal, versus all of the training that you did is like what you remember and what the accomplishment was more so than that one day race. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't know, I mean, what you're going to say for an answer, but it just seems like a lot of times, what are those like fancy quotes of like the the journey is the destination, or like, just this idea of how many miles you ran for training was infinitely more than the marathon. But
Hmm.
then at the end of the day, like, what was the bigger accomplishment? Like all of that training, like the story you told last time on one of the last episodes, where you work for 10 hours and then you guys had no excuses and you went and ran 10 miles or something like that, versus like, hey, we didn't run as fast as we wanted to, but we accomplished the end goal and that was the point.
Yeah. So the end goal was to run it, and that was the big thing, and we did that, and we're happy with that. But as you're training and you're putting in all these miles, I'm only going to speak for myself because I don't want to speak for anybody else. But when you're putting in all these miles, regardless of what you have going in your life, you still want to do a certain way. And so when it came to the race, the type of training that we did, we thought we could run X time, which is something to shoot for, to push yourself while you're within trying to complete it.
Mhm.
Now, we did things backwards and we ran a full marathon first. So we knew we could run a half. So we went in with the mindset that we know we can run it. So let's try to up the ante and run it faster than the split in which we ran the full marathon in. So when we were running the full marathon at Grandma's Marathon, when we hit 13.1 there and we still had 13.1 to go, we wanted to be faster than that.
Mhm.
And then while we were training, we're like, well, we can make, we could run an hour and a half. And so we set all these standards, and I mean, while you're running, it's a long time to run. So you have a lot of time to think. And when your headphones die and you have to switch them out and things happen that you can't control, and you feel like all that training, you're just thinking about all that training that you did. And so you're like, that's going to push you through the race. And it did.
Mhm.
It's just at the end, you're like, man, I did all that work and it still was tough. But also look at all of those habits that I created training wise, for just like the example that you brought up about when I don't want to train and I worked all day and I have to go train. And you do hard things over and over and over and over and over. One, you don't think about it. And two, when it actually does become hard, like it did in that race, I didn't stop. Like I didn't stop and walk. I didn't, because I didn't do that in training, and I have put myself in hard situations before. So when it got hard, I'm like, my mind at least knew to tell my body that we've been here before, and I was able to keep pushing. So I think training very much helped with that.
For sure. No. And because if you didn't do hard things and then you get to a hard thing,
Yeah,
you're not going to be able to. Because if that's the first time you encountered it, you probably would, or you probably would stop, or you probably,
yeah,
because it's the accumulation of hard things that allows you to get through hard things.
yeah. Because inevitably, we all will come across hard things, and once you have liked to have been through some before, been through some hard things before, something like that, so that, holy cow, this is the first hard thing I've ever had to do, and then it's mentally and physically exhausting when
Mhm.
you have had that prep.
Right. And you do, I mean, you do have to seek out hard things, right? And like that's what's cool about 2024 and like all the work you've put into like, hey, let's build habits. Let's do hard things per month, right? Like I think you guys have one big overarching, like, we're going to accomplish this for the whole year, but then also let's break that down in totally different categories, right? In all aspects of life, like relationship,
Hmm.
money, health, fitness, like all of those things matter. And so it's cool to see this list that we're going to dive into and like have it hit so many branches of life, all while on top of that having an overarching goal for 365 days that you have to just make the decision every day
Hmm.
to stick with or not. And so, with that being said, like, what is your big overarching 2024?
Yeah, I like to call it my big, hairy, audacious goal because it's just, you know, crazy,
Mm-hmm.
insane. And when you tell somebody it the first time, you you know that they're gonna think you're crazy, and they're gonna think how are you gonna do that. So mine is simplified. It's no sugar, but detailed. It's no added sugar. So
Nice.
I'm gonna be eating fruit. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna be putting honey in my espresso, no natural forms, but I'm not going to be drinking like energy drinks with any added sugar in it,
Mm-hmm.
or anything that I pick up a food label and it says includes X amount of added sugar.
Mm-hmm.
I will not be consuming any of that for 365 days.
There you go.
And I think next year I really did it. I think next year's a leap year. So 366 days. So I'm going to be really committed there.
Right. Yeah. Extra 24 hours, I'll tell you. It'll
Yeah.
get you.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
If anybody else in the True Health community wants to join Cole or I in any one of our challenges or any monthly challenges, um, I'm gonna try to be better and be more active on social media in regards to the monthly challenges and
Mm-hmm.
let you know how I'm doing, and I'll humble myself if I screw up and I don't get it.
For sure.
But that's mine. So
That's awesome. And that kind of allows me to reflect on this a little bit because we have gone through 2023 with no added sugar, and I know it's tough. And the second that you put zero added sugar, the further you go into it, the more decisions you make. Like, it will say less than one added sugar, 1 gram of added sugar. So you guys just have to decide, like, hey, is less than 1 gram close enough to zero? And so it, any is, for us, it was let's make it as black and white as possible. I'll throw out too, like, sugar alcohol is another one, because it says zero added sugar, 10 grams of sugar alcohols. And so we made the decision to that counts as sugar. And so the erythritols, some of those other sugar alcohols, like, those are added sugar in our
mhm,
book. And so we haven't had some of those. I never really liked the flavor or like what that does to my stomach anyway, and so that's almost an easier decision. Like, even if I was having added sugar, I wouldn't really touch those. Um, and then sometimes, like, it'll say no added sugar, and then down in the ingredients list, like, it will say, um, throwing stevia out there, but that might be inaccurate. But like sucralose, or like, it will say those things, and like, I simply don't know enough about why they can and why they can't, as far as some of that, like, put zero added sugar, but then also put sugar in the ingredient list. Um, I'm sure it's something weird, something for them to get around and still advertise as healthy or whatever. But sometimes we would see sucralose or something like that in the ingredients list. but it said zero added sugar. And so to uncomplicate our life somewhat, like we would still have it. So just exposing some of those things that like you guys are about to go through, and anyone else that decides like, hey, let's do no added sugar either for the year or for the month. Like
Yeah, start with
it
a
it gets blurry, and it does get complicated a little bit, which is super frustrating, but it is what it is. And that's why we're increasing our awareness, and that's why we're challenging ourselves to do these things, is to be more aware of what's out there and what's on the label. Um, but those are probably our two. The ingredients list sometimes doesn't match up with what it says on the label, which is fine. Just have your rules and be happy with what you're sticking with. And then the sugar alcohol is the other thing. And then the inevitable, like you grab something and it says less than 1 gram. Like it's more just disappointing anyway. And more than anything. I was just had a phone call earlier today, and I said like the no added sugar thing has been awesome. And I wouldn't say that we've had to sacrifice, like we've had to modify.
Mm-hmm.
The last podcast that I did, the last video that I uploaded, peanut butter, you know, and it went through ingredients lists and added sugar and no added sugar of 3 different peanut butters. But you could insert that for ketchup. You could insert that for barbecue sauce. You could insert that for pastas or breads or whatever. Like I didn't have to. I mean, even frozen pizza, I think I've said that before. Like I didn't have to sacrifice those things. I just had to modify or like play Where's Waldo a little bit harder and
Mm-hmm.
flip over a few more labels and realize like I can still have all these things that I want to have without the accumulation of the added sugar over time. And so I also think it's kind of cool to be like, okay, I still want to have blank. I still want to have ketchup, but I have to find a different ketchup. Not, I can't have ketchup ever again. And so that, again, like I said, like I didn't sacrifice. We didn't have to sacrifice. We had to modify. And I think there's a big difference in that too. It makes it a little bit more achievable.
I like to think along that same line is how can I modify and make it myself? So if I really want it and you're going to the store and you're like, gosh, they add sugar to all of this of what I want. And then me personally, I would be like, okay, if I want it that bad, how can I make it at home and
Yeah,
not put sugar in it? Because probably making stuff at home is going to be your best bet anyway,
right,
because you're going to have to buy ingredients that you know or at least can pronounce,
right.
put into something to make it. So, yeah, I think in the world right now, in the fitness industry and in nutrition spheres, it's a lot about restriction.
Hmm.
And I think that's tough for us because we have an abundance of we never have to worry about when our next meal comes.
Hmm.
Now there are families in the United States that do,
Hmm.
but they're not having to worry about like what what they're eating. They just want to eat something,
Hmm.
and that's a whole different conversation. But
Hmm.
when you have those choices and you have the ability to modify, just take a second and look at what's on there, what's on the label.
For sure. Yeah. Cooking at home is a good example. Like we found this recipe probably in January or February of last year, for muffins, oatmeal muffins. And like we were having oatmeal, we were just trying to change it up, but we couldn't have added sugar. So we found this recipe and we found it in January and February, and now it's December. And we've probably made them literally every week to every other week because we found a recipe that works, that didn't have added sugar, and just stuck with it, because you can make less decisions that way. And so to find that home cooked meal, to find that modification to a muffin and then just stick with it. Like that's your new recipe. You know, like if you're gonna take the time in the kitchen to find a different recipe and try it and like make sure it's good, it's like we just found the recipe: bananas, oats, honey or maple syrup, um, cinnamon, baking powder, peanut butter, and boom, you know, done. Mix all that up and cook them up. Like quick, easy, shut the brain off, make it happen. And or you can quick, easy, shut the brain off, buy a box of them at the store and not know what you're getting, you know? And so that's what we're talking about is like know what you're getting, know what you're eating, read the label, expose yourself. Like it's your responsibility at the end of the day. And there are ways to modify it. And so, and do that with everything, you know, your exercise program, your sleep habits. Like it's your responsibility, like expose yourself, like ask the tough questions and then change it, you know, and modify things. Everything's a trade-off. You don't have to sacrifice. You don't have to, you know, sleep outside to be tougher. Like sleep in a big comfy bed, but just do hard things and do hard things for yourself and do hard things for your family, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that, you know, one thing leads to another, like right into the next big thing, the next challenge, because time's going to keep going whether you want it to or not.
And that momentum that you create with the one, you're rolling right into the next month, and you've accomplished one thing. Now it's to the next, and it's different, but you have that habit loop started, and so keep rolling on into the next one.
Absolutely.
And with the things that you've accomplished in 2023, that one, and then I'm going to try to follow suit and try to do that. I can't. I'm trying like hell. And what are some other like things, you know, like maybe they're a little bit weird, things that you did in 2023 or you found out about yourself in 2023?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, we're pretty normal, you know, as far as like I don't say biohacking by any means. Like that's a little bit of a stretch. I honestly like to go the other way, and you know that's what true health is all about. Is like what's the simplest, easy way, you know, that we can do it. Like let's build the bottom of the pyramid. But there are a couple things that you know you might not think of, or that I changed in 2023 that I have liked, and one of those things is setting the red light on my phone. Not all the time during the day, but in early in the morning and later in the evening, switching that my phone over to more of a red dim light. My eyes like it. I like it. It's more of like a habit than anything of like, okay, it's dark. My phone's in red light mode. Like either I'm off of it or it's just a little less overwhelming. And something that I, again, thought was kind of weird, but then I did it, I tried it, and like the more I had it on there, the more I found myself clicking, turning that on in the dark. So what I'll do, I'll find the video. I think it was the carnivore MD guy, Paul Saladino, if I'm saying his name right, but he shared the video of how to, so I'll just find that and put it on my story and do that. I really liked that, and that was kind of weird. Um, and then coconut oil, you know, like we're always looking at products and especially in our food, like what's the food ingredients list, but what else in your house has a lot of ingredients, you know, cleaning products, lotions, soaps, all of that stuff, cooking oils, stuff like that. And so I found more and more posts and more uses for coconut oil, and now I use it for almost anything. Like, if I don't want to put hair gel in, like I'll put some in there, right? Like I'll use it for lotion instead of body lotion. Like,
Mm-hmm.
body lotion's kind of gross. It's oily. I hate it, but
Mm-hmm.
like coconut oil works. Separately, I'll have a different container in the kitchen, and we'll cook a lot with coconut oil. I'll throw a scoop in my
Yep.
rice, right?
Double dip with hair in your
Yeah, like just one big bucket. It sits on my
yeah,
counter, and I just use
yeah.
it for everything all the time. You know? So no, I am clarifying. I
Yeah.
have separate containers, right? And that's been cool and weird and different. But the thing I like about it is like I know what it is, and that's it, right? Like it's coconut oil. It's one ingredient. It's got multiple uses, and like and honestly, it's cheaper than shit. Like relative to having all of those other things, right? And so I was trying to think of some others, but those are probably the ones that stand out that like I use on a daily basis that have really made an impact on kind of a weird or different thing that I've found. So the red light therapy and then the coconut oil, like look it up. Look how many things you can use it for. It's kind of cool. But how about you? I mean, any weird things? Like I kind of threw myself out there as far as that goes. Like anything that like I don't know to you and Dakota is like normal, but to other people it'd be like, man, you kind of have to either not explain that or spend some extra time explaining that.
Um, yeah. So, yeah, we just come from a different backgrounds. So I guess what I'll say is that things that I don't find weird, but I find are phenomenal, and that someday I want to be able to have weekends at our place where we invite people over to do health, fitness, crazy things. So I want a garage set up with the sauna, a
Hmm.
cold plunge,
Hmm.
a rig to get workouts.
Hmm.
Um, Now this is going to be weird for people, but there is research articles that I printed off and I've read about the effects of grounding or earthing.
Hmm.
They're very hippie-esque type of thing. But the whole premise behind that, if you're listening to this and you haven't heard it before, is that the earth has an electrical charge and us human beings have a charge. And we have, we're made up of electrons as well. And so when we put our feet, our bare bottom feet on the grass, we essentially are connecting that charge and creating a current, and that has been shown to decrease inflammation throughout the body.
Nice.
So I brought that up to family. Really weird, right? Zach, you're really weird. And I brought it up to friends at work. And
Hmm.
now it just shows you that people think about it when they think you're stupid. They think
Hmm.
about it. And then I get pictures sent to me of feet on grass saying, "Hey, I'm earthing today while I'm in the yard." And I'm like,
Nice.
I know you're sending this because you're trying to be funny,
Yeah.
but you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you probably feel better, but you don't have to tell me that.
Yeah. And so for me this year, I've spent a lot of time outdoors barefoot.
Nice. That's super cool.
Yeah. And so I never did that before. We were up at my parents' cabin. I was barefoot the whole time.
That's
And
awesome.
so,
And getting comfortable with that is
and yeah,
different for people.
I've always jammed my foot into a narrow Nike shoe.
Hmm.
So now these people who promote grounding are usually from warmer climates year round. So they do have a mattress cover
Hmm.
that they've done research on as well to show
Hmm.
that people who spend, 8 hours or whatever, 7, 8 hours sleeping on it
Hmm.
overnight, have shown improvement in signs of decrease in inflammation, which they have done with scans. They've shown that, and then people have rated their pain in an everyday less. Very weird nowadays, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of weird out there, so you can't discount it right off the bat because just
Right.
because you haven't heard it doesn't mean that it might not work.
Yeah.
Also, look into it a little bit before you
For sure.
just do it. Now, I think that's one of the simplest things that you can do. So that's why I did it. I'm like, oh, just walk outside and stand on the grass barefoot. We did that as kids all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's simple. It doesn't cost me anything.
Hmm.
And how's that going to hurt me? I've I've done it before. I did it growing up.
Hmm.
So I did that. I Honestly, I sleep better when I am barefoot most of the day outside. That's my own testimony. That's nothing to back it up other than I I sleep better if I'm out barefoot more. So that's my weird thing. And my last thing is I'm consuming like an outrageous amount of health information in 2023. So much so that my brain is overthinking a lot of the time
Mhm.
about everything. So I try to simplify it, pick one thing and read on that. And one of those rabbit holes was the grounding thing.
Yeah.
But another one of the things that I'm not going to get into today is seed oils related to neurocognitive disorders. And so
Interesting.
I won't elaborate on that now,
Hmm.
but we do have that unfortunate, I call it a bastard, in our family, neurocognitives. But what I'm finding is that a lot of it, although genetic, there are things that we can do to lessen that chance of happening.
Yeah, and just changing decisions, but again, being informed about it too, and keeping it simple. So all my uh, all my 2024 goals just changed, and my goal is to send feet pics to Hiller every
Better, I'm gonna have to have people start signing consent forms. People be worried about my camera roll with all
day.
feet.
It is interesting, and you think about that. I've heard about that before too. It's just like, I mean, trying to be outside, right? Like, is more challenging in the world we live in today, right? And like, I'm not saying I'm old enough to like remember it. Everybody spent all day outside. Like, I didn't come from that long ago either. I'm just saying relative to the views and the history and like how people used to live, it used to be a lot more outside. Would I rather live in 2023 when we do have all these, innovative and nice things? Like, yeah, like life's easier. I like it. It's convenient. It's comfortable. It feels good. Like, thank
Mhm.
goodness I'm not fighting tigers off every day. But all like you talk about some of those weird things now. I think the weird thing is how hard it is to be outside. Like, again, we live in colder climates. It's December. It is what it is. But it's just harder. And acknowledging that is just one simple part of it, right? Like, man, maybe I should try to be outside more. And it's the same decision as, hey, maybe I should know what's in my food. Hey, maybe I should exercise more. Like, hey, maybe I should be outside more. And you talked about, like, hey, you sleep better when you're outside barefoot all day, right? And like the correlation between, well, that probably meant you were being more active. You were,
Mhm.
not to discredit the grounding by any means, but I think it's like multi-factor too. Like, there's a lot of things that are involved when, you're doing something fun, barefoot outside, getting sun, putting out energy, then you go
Yeah.
to bed more tired. And like, regardless, like if you sleep better, you sleep better, but it's also the recipe for sleeping good is like effort, outdoors, fresh air, all of those things. And then the grounding is just kind of like one more thing on top that is meant to be the way we're meant to be.
Mhm.
So, that's cool. And that's why it's cool, reflecting on all these things for 2023 in order to make 2024 better. You can't just roll right into 2024 and all of a sudden have it better without acknowledging some of these things and addressing some of these things with a little bit of reflection too. And we encourage everybody to do that. Like, reflect on your situation. What do you want to change and why? Not what do you want to change, but what do you want to change and why?
Mm,
Because when it's hard, when it's tough, you're going to stick with it a whole lot better.
I agree. No, we got a little time left. We can run through the 2024 monthly challenges to stimulate habit creation.
Yeah, and then we'll just throw up this list that Kelly came up with that he's going to follow through with every single month. And if you want to jump on certain months or all the months, like we'll put all the months up there, and then every month we'll kind of let people know how it's going and seeing what we're doing.
Hmm.
Modify it as you need to, but yeah, you just run through the 2024 monthly challenges to let people know, and then we'll post it later to give everybody a reminder of what they are.
And then some of them are not as specific, so we'll put little details underneath them. But like right now, just to put it fresh in your brain. January, no spend. February, no social media. March, read a fiction book or novel. April, 800-gram challenge. That's referring to fruits and vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
May, nighttime stretch routine for 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
June, squat every day. July, a 5K every day with grounding. August, journal every day 10 minutes. September, listen to a podcast every day. October, no fast food. November, walk the dogs 2 miles every day or walk 2 miles every day. December, 10 minutes of sitting in silence. God help us all. For our overthinkers out there, that one will be really, really tough.
Yeah, I mean that right now.
So,
But that's cool. I think it sets the stage for a good month and stuff to look forward to. You know, I think people are always looking to challenge themselves. They just maybe don't know how, don't have a community to kind of support themselves in it. There's always strings attached. Like this is no strings attached. It's a challenge. It's accountability. You either do it or you don't. You know, and so it's cool to have some guidance, have some ideas. You know, the creativity there for challenging yourself in multiple ways, like I said before, is super cool, and it'll be fun to take it 1 month at a time, all while trying to have no added sugar for the whole year. But it's doable, you know. And with all this stuff, it's just trade-offs. You know, it's not sacrificing; it's modifying. And
mhm.
so, to look at it that way, to improve yourself, challenge yourself, change yourself, like that's what it's all about.
Now, the last thing I'll say about no spend January, because it's a big red flag for people and it's glaring and it's scary. No spend January is just bills, and groceries and gas.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going out to buy a coffee, you're making coffee at home. You're not stopping to buy food at the gas station or fast food. You're making food at home. You're prepping, carrying an apple in your backpack if you get hungry. These little no spend is a ginormous habit creator in itself because you have to find out all these things
Mm-hmm.
because it's simply, I can't spend money. And we love to start the new year like this because it gets the ball rolling.
That's
But
cool.
gift cards are fair game.
Like if
So
you get gift cards for Christmas,
yes, if
that's
you
not
get
your
gift
money.
Christmas and it's out to eat or it's gift or it's coffee, that's
Yeah,
not your money, so you can use them.
there you go. Get resourceful. HILLER's
Yep.
Christmas. HILLER's gift card for Christmas. We're only like a week away from the new year, 2 weeks away from the new year. So
Yeah.
like we do have to kind of lay out like no spend January because January 1st, 2024 is happening. It's
Yep.
coming. It's right around the corner. So get prepared and get ready to do it. It's time to commit.
Yes. It's gonna be fun.
Nice. That's awesome.
Cole, what's your big goal for 2024?
Good question. I put that off the whole episode and I was trying to commit. I have it on here. You can see it. But you explained big, hairy, audacious goal and like something that people don't understand why you're doing it or how you're going to get it done. And what's on the paper says 50-mile race. You know, I'm not going to run. I've never ran a marathon, so I'm not going to go run. Uh, uh, 50 miles. It would be walking, maybe rucking.
Hmm.
It would be accomplishing the mileage, you know. And regardless, like that's more my personal excuse or my personal steps to what it actually means. but we kind of have to make it 100, right? I mean, maybe we could increase the timeline, maybe 100 miles in 48 hours, but a 50-mile race, you kind of said big, hairy, audacious. It didn't feel big enough. So maybe a 100-mile race by the end of the year. Prepping for that, getting ready for that, seeing what that would look like. Maybe I can get Hiller to come on down and join me for some of it or all of it. But more, we'll call it a wreck, not a race. I'm not going to jump into a 100-mile race, but a 100-mile wreck.
We
And
should,
let's say a weekend.
yes, we should make it a community event where
Some or all
yeah,
of the mileage.
yeah, just come on over and put a waded vest on and, meet at a place and you ruck and walk as much as you want.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's do it. That's
All right.
it. It's time to have a physical challenge for the year, and there's going to be a lot of prep going into that to get the legs and get the body ready for it. So I'm excited. It's a done deal. That's you made me double it right here on the spot on the episode, which is extremely fortunate or unfortunate depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah, exactly. But it's I got some ideas. I think if we get a community to come, small or big, it will be great to trek around for miles and miles and miles.
For sure. I'm ready for it. I got a little dazed and confused. I just had two foxes. Keep in mind I live in the middle of town. There's two foxes out in the front yard. Yeah. that just went through my front yard. I was like, "Oh, look, there's like a little no, that's a fox and that's two foxes." I think they're in the backyard now. So wow, yeah.
Middle of town.
I was gonna like play it cool and just like move on, but I was like, "Oh no, that's wild. There's two of them." But
Right.
well, you'll get it all. If we do it down here, we might be
Yeah.
foxes of money. So, but it's cool. I mean, I don't think you can prepare for 2024 without reflecting on 2023. Like that's my takeaway from this podcast and this episode is like you got to be ready for 2024 and you have to lay it all out there and really put the challenges in front of you. And I think it's going to be a good year. So our goal is to also continue with these podcasts pretty regularly and share a lot, so maybe the next one will be a little bit more about us and our profession and just kind of our perspective on health and how we got here. Cool.
Yeah.
So tune in for the next one, but we'll post these the whole 2024 month by month challenges here in the next couple of days too, so be on the lookout for those.
Right on.
All right, leave a comment, let us know which one you're most excited for, which challenge, which month are you the most excited for the challenge, and which ones are you guys going to jump on, and let us know if you're ready to commit for no added sugar for the whole 2024 with Hiller and Dakota.
Boom.
I'm going to give myself a little bit more grace this year. I might go like less than 5 grams per serving. We haven't dialed that in, but if the label says less than 5, less than 3, it's definitely going to open us up to our circle a little bit bigger. So we'll see. I know January 1st is not going to be good for my energy or for anything because I am diving back in. I promise you that. Like Krispy Kreme, I'm on speed dial. So maybe we'll see. But we'll hop on here, let you know what we eat on January 1st and how terrible it made me feel.
Yeah. That'll be it. You've basically sugar fasted for a year. It'll be interesting how your body wants or doesn't want that.
It's gonna hate me, but we'll do it.
Yeah. Great. I love it.
We'll see you guys.
See ya.